Welcome back. This is episode 2. We're here. It's the Dogger Saints Unofficial St Johnstone Podcast. Coming up today, we have an exclusive chat with Kevin Twaddle about his Saints career and his life after football. Who did my co-host Danny see aimlessly wandering around Perth every day? We chat about a Europa League legend, unfortunately wasn't with Saints at the time, and why it's so important to go to the toilet before you get in a taxi to Dingwall. I'm Sam, and I'm joined once again by the best thing to come out of Blackpool since the Pleasure Beach, the brother and sister from Gogglebox and Scott Tanzer's left foot. It's Danny Williams.
What an illustrious list, Sam, and I'm pleased to be within it. I'm once again pleased to be back here chatting to you, mate, as ever. Robert Smith from the Cures from Blackpool.
There we go. No wonder he was so miserable.
Well, yeah, to be fair, he moved when he was free, so I'm going to say that's what made him miserable, but it's more likely just those 3 years in Blackpool had the impact. Chris Lowe from the Pet Shop Boys, he's off Cavendish Road.
The Pet Shop Boys making all the noise.
Pet Shop Boys making all the noise. And Fraser's dad.
Martin Crane.
Marty Crane, John Mahoney, who played Marty Crane, was born in Blackpool.
This could be a new feature. We'll try and find somebody every single week that comes from Blackpool. I don't think this will be a long-running feature, but it's got potential.
It'll take us about, I think I've pretty much exhausted the list there and then, mate.
Yeah, by the time we get to episode 4, our features will have dried up, so this is what we'll be reduced to. So we'll save all this juicy Blackpool content for another week. So we've got 2 games to cover this week. The first one being Rangers. Danny, what was your take?
Yeah, pretty much. I wouldn't say it went exactly how I thought it was going to go, because I thought it was going to be about 4 or 5. Probably when I expected us to lose, we lost, but we looked very, very organised. We didn't give them an awful lot of chances. I've seen a few takes sort of through the week. Maybe we missed a bit of an opportunity there because Rangers didn't play particularly well.
No, I would agree. Bryson looked pretty lively up top, big game play. He's not shown an awful lot of that with St Johnstone, but I thought he was probably the standout player in that team. But as you say, I don't think Rangers played particularly well. We kept our chances down. The goal probably could have been defended a little bit better. To come away from Ibrox with kind of reputation intact, we looked organised. I thought it was all right. Move on without too much damage caused.
Yeah, I think maybe anything, reputation might have been slightly enhanced. I mean, the big talking point from the game was obviously the Kemar Roof non-sending off. I sort of had 2 takeaways from that. The first one was, obviously it's a glaring referee mistake. Ray Charles could have given that and he's blind and dead. So the second sort of take, which I think for me was more pertinent, maybe an unpopular opinion, but it made no difference for me because I don't think, even if they were down to 10, sorry, I'm going to qualify that. It made no difference to how Saints would have approached the game. It still would have been 10 men behind the ball or 9 men behind the ball and May up top and Bryson hanging about, who actually thought Bryson had a pretty good game. Now, it's not the sort of game that's really going to define the season. I mean, away day at Ibrox isn't going to define the season at all. But maybe I think the performance and the sort of organisation and just the teamwork really might give the guys something going forward.
I think so. I think we're going to the Livi game in a little bit, but it's starting to look like they've kind of carried on that form and organisation and things. But we'll get to that in a bit. Touching on the Kemar Roof incident, a couple of my Rangers friends were quick to throw in that Chris Kane did something similar to, I think, Stephen Davis. But looking back at that, Stephen Davis does pull out, doesn't really get him if there is any contact. I'm pretty sure there's not. And retrospectively, it was a 2-match ban, so you can see there that was a pretty nasty challenge. I'd be pretty gutted for Murray Davison if he's going to miss out in the cup final through injury. But it looked like he went off with an ankle injury unrelated to the tackle.
Yeah, it didn't look like it. If it's any solace, it didn't look like it was related to the challenge, as you say. And yeah, I saw the sort of Chris Kane challenge kicking about. I also saw one a mate of mine sent me, a Rangers supporting mate of mine. I think it was Gordo earlier on in the season, Liam Gordon, from the earlier game at Ibrox, and it was a nasty challenge then. But 2 wrongs don't make a right. Doesn't mean that Roofs wasn't a red card because someone else from another team did something similar. It probably says a little bit about the standard of refereeing, but that's a whole can of worms I'm not really inclined to open up.
No, it's probably best to leave that one. The best thing is, my favourite thing about that game was the fact that I'm getting so much more value out of my last season's away top. That's the 4th time they've had it on this year because of the amount of blue in the current one. James Brown, I thought, had a pretty decent start to his Saints career at right back.
I thought he was absolutely exceptional, to be honest with you. I thought he worked really hard. it's totally transparent how we got hold of it because it was a bit of a deal sweetener for Millwall taking Danny McNamara back. But he looks like the kind of player you wouldn't be worried if for whatever reason Rooney wasn't playing or had moved into sort of centre half or something like that. You'd be quite comfortable with James Brown playing at right back.
Yeah, I thought he hit a really sweet cross across the box, one of them kind of half volley, kind of goalkeeper kick out style ones. He looked pretty confident. Obviously, Middleton didn't play because it was against his parent club, but we'll go briefly into transfers that were brought in. James Brown came in at the start, but I think there was a COVID issue there. Glenn Middleton, I think he'll do a job. Spoke to a lot of good Rangers friends, and apparently he's pretty pacey. Middle of the parks and score goals. I think he'll probably be similar to Matty Butcher, who we had last year. Certainly competent enough player to have in the team.
Yeah, it's a shame with Butcher actually because we didn't really see a lot of him before COVID came down. And I actually thought he was really getting into it. But I think Middleton, I think he'll do a good job. As you say, he's pacey. He's a little bit different. If we are going to start playing wingers, he's a little bit different to Conway, mainly in the fact that he's pacey. But I think I never thought he did a bad job at all for Rangers. Obviously, they've just gone out and improved the squad and he's slipped down the pecking order. It doesn't in any way mean that he's not a good player or at least not a useful player. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing maybe what he can do, looking forward to seeing what he can bring because we are sort of approaching key point of the season. We're approaching the split. Just stay as far away from the bottom two as possibly can.
Hamilton's the one to keep an eye on. St Mirren are above us, but they've got 3 games in hand. If you have to look at it as if they win all their games in hand, we'd be struggling. But as it stands, we're only 9 points off Livi. But stranger things have happened. If we're hitting form at the right time, then you never know. Talking about players slipping down the pecking order, Middleton of the Rangers, Callum Henry made a surprise switch to Aberdeen on transfer deadline day. Again, a player has just not had a spark this season, whether it's due to managerial change and he just can't work under Davidson. Only Callum Henry will know, but a good move for him.
It is a good move, provided he gets game time. A little bit sceptical about it, or worried about it, I'd say, more than sceptical. Obviously, because Aberdeen basically let their entire strike force go on deadline day.
Yeah.
So he was looking at bolster, or in the transfer window, I should say. So looking at bolster, obviously they bought Canberrian, who you'd imagine would be probably first pick, and they've got a few other guys in there. I hope Callum gets game time because he's got goals in him and he had a really good run last season. Just this season, I think maybe it's a shame as well because he has slipped down from first choice centre forward to bombed out on lock, which is a bit of a come down. But he seemed to not be really suited to playing up front on his own. And that was the system that Callum Davidson was going with at the start of the season. And Stevie May was tried out there. And then eventually sort of Chris Kane looked the best option for playing up front on his own. And ironically, we've now sort of started to go back to 2 up top. So, but it might just be good for Callum to get away, maybe try and get some minutes under his belt for Aberdeen if McInnes, decides to use him. And hopefully comes back with that little bit of confidence.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you have to say. He must feel that he must be getting guaranteed game time because with a cup final coming up, to sacrifice going with St Johnstone to a cup final must have been a pretty big deal for him. But if he needs to get the games under his belt, he's already played in the last 2 Aberdeen games. He needs it. He needs the game time.
He absolutely does. And sort of think he's gone to Aberdeen. As you say, it must be on the premise that he is going to get game time. And I don't just think for Callum's sake, but also the other Callum, Davidson, must have said, we'll send him to him if he's going to send him to you if he's going to play. Because he could have dropped down. I'm sure there wouldn't have been a shortage of clubs, maybe even in the Championship, that would have been willing to take him on. But also from the club's perspective, I suppose Aberdeen makes a little bit more sense than one of the clubs sort of in and around Saints. Because the likelihood is, again, we'll come to the split, Aberdeen are going to be in a different side of the split to Saints. So they're not really pushing for the same things.
No, and he's going to have quality players around him and to play with up top. So sometimes that could work in their favour. But fingers crossed to Callum Henry and hope he does the business up in Aberdeen. More good news with St Johnstone. David Witherspoon signed a new 2-year deal. What a hero that guy has turned out to be this year.
Yeah, he's a great lad. Absolutely brilliant news. I mean, what is it? He just bought, what was it, 300th game for St Johnstone in the semi-final? Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, what a fantastic servant. What an absolutely wonderful player as well. I know sometimes he does get a bit of stick, but he's that sort of player. And with players like that who are very good on the ball, he's not someone who chases his own first touch around the park. So when he does lose it, folk are really quick to jump on him. But I think he's maybe starting to be appreciated, as he should be.
Yeah, he was always Tommy Wright's favourite. And like I said, he was getting a little bit of sticks, why is Witherspoon getting another game? Why is he a guaranteed starter? But I think the change of management has actually helped him kick on a wee bit now. He's getting goals, I think he's on 6 for the season. You'll always have a legacy with Saints, obviously setting up the goal, and we'll look back in his time when he does finish up with Saints and what an absolute hero of a player we've had there.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's been involved in so many big moments for Saints down the years, and just it's not everything. Obviously, he's a Saints fan. I've never seen him. He does, in his own way, give absolutely everything, and he's a top quality player. He's a lovely player to watch. So I'm delighted with the news. Really am, and I think it's important because if he didn't get it sorted, he would have been snapped up.
Yeah,
there'd have been absolutely no shortage of clubs willing to give him a deal. Brilliant news, and 2 years. It should really. I think he's just turned 30, or maybe just 30, 31.
Yeah, he's slightly older than that, but no, he's still got a good couple of years left in him. I don't see that being the end of his career either. But you'll be due a testimonial. I know Murray Davidson's got one coming up as well, so 2022 is going to be a big year for St Johnstone and their team. And I really hope Witherspoon sticks out and keeps up the high form, because his brother's in one of our group chats, and I really don't want to go in there giving him both guns, and because it gets a bit awkward. It gets a bit awkward when Ian can read the messages.
I know, I don't want to get pulled up by his brother for that.
And to complete the signings in the transfer deadline day, we got Charlie Gilmore in on a free. Former Arsenal youth player, played in Holland for a spell and Norwich. Don't know much about the guy, but Cal must have seen enough in his trial to give him a deal.
Yeah, he's got good pedigree. Good pedigree. He's been, obviously, as you say, he was in the Arsenal youth setup, Scotland Youth International. He's had a rough time with injuries, so I believe. But hopefully we can get him back into some sort of shape, get him back playing football. Hopefully it'll be a mutually beneficial signing.
I think so. I think with the probably the prospect of maybe losing Ali McCann in the summer, that would leave our midfield of Liam Craig, Davidson, Bryson, Conway. The average age of that's been obviously mid-30s. So it brings the kind of average age of the midfield down a bit, and I think that's kind of what we're needing as well, especially if Ali McCann is to go. Fingers crossed he doesn't.
Yeah, let's not say stuff like that at this stage.
Speaking of which, things not to say. On midweek as well, there was an incident at Hamilton, which everybody will know about by now. The weird and wonderful world of Scottish football doesn't ever kind of let up.
I hadn't pressed the button. I went away for a job at half time. Excuse my term of language, and I've not pressed the wee button on when I come back. So apologies to anybody who have not heard me this second half.
You're speaking in the vernacular there. Apologies if you deem that bad language, viewers.
Yeah, sorry, it was just a wee bit of poop. And I was a wee bit late back over. I had to squeeze quite a bit. Sorry, I'll just change the subject and get back to the match, but I forgot to press my wee button.
Right, there's two sides to this. There's the one side where, because this lad's been punted now by Ackies, and it's hard to disagree with that decision. There is the other side where that might have been the funniest thing ever broadcast on television.
It was.
I was howling. It might just be my sense of humour, but I found it very, very funny.
I can see both sides of the coin with that one. His initial comment was made, and then they apologised. If he just shut his mouth there, it would have been fine. It was the wee follow-up bit wasn't necessarily required, but he was obviously having a wee giggle to himself. And this is what we love about Scottish football. And we touched on it last week about fan commentary and the wonderful world of unprofessionals coming in to kind of fill in these roles. I think this guy was a professional, though.
When I made that comment about it sort of being endearing and charming, I didn't really see that coming.
No.
It's honestly, it was very, very funny.
But yeah, he was late back to comms. It can happen. You must have been late to a few things, Dan, surely?
I'm going to tell you all the tale here.
Oh, God.
Friends. It's the first instalment of Danny's story time for today. I was late for my first job in Perth, and I lived in Dundee at the time. I was doing my masters in Dundee, and I was just finishing up and still had my digs. So I just travelled through when I first got my job in Perth. I'll be honest with you, I've been to Perth a couple of times, and I didn't really know what I was doing in terms of getting there. But I thought to myself, I tried to be a right clever dick. I thought, I'll cut out the first exit where you're coming down and you just go through town. The easy way to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the far easier way to get there. I thought, I'll go to Broxton, I might cut down on a bit of traffic. Thinking that there was just an exit there for Broxton or whatever. Or I'd just keep driving down the road and come to Broxton roundabout.
Mm-hmm.
Long story short, I ended up in Milner Fort. I overshot it slightly.
I would say it's easily done, but I can't say it is.
Now, I'm late for everything. I think I was late for the starting and recording this podcast, and this is in my own flat.
It's an hour. Just an hour. It's fine.
Right, the hour wasn't entirely my fault.
Technical issues, week 2.
So Yeah, my timekeeping is piss poor. My sense of direction is also apparently worse. I'd really made an effort. I'd left Dundee an hour before was meant to be starting work and was still quarter of an hour late.
Did you stop off at Burger King in Kinross? That would be my first protocol. Just write the day off, get a Burger King.
I was tempted to go into Burger King.
Of course you are.
And sit there crying, eating a Whopper.
Did you pass your driving test first time?
No, second.
Oh, well, I was 5. But technically it was only 4 because I missed the third one by an hour. I turned up at 2 o'clock and it was actually at back of 1. Not ideal, but we've all been late back to something. If you've got any stories about being late, send us a message on the Dogger Saints Instagram or Dogger Saints on Twitter. So let's go to Saturday's game against Livingston at Ammon Vale. I refuse to call it the Tony Macaroni. They were on a 14-game unbeaten run. Martindale absolutely flying, the media darling of the moment. We won 2-1.
It was, yeah, we did. We did win 2-1. And we're very good value for it, in my opinion. Livi have been pushing the luck during that 14-match run. There's been a couple of times where they've done a bit of a Houdini act. But I thought Saints were exceptional value for the win yesterday.
Yeah, I agree. I thought we matched them all over the pitch. I was a bit nervy the last 5 minutes or so. Typical St Johnstone, doing things a difficult way.
My arse was going like a chewed orange.
There's a vision for all the listeners this week.
Can edit that out.
No, that's staying in, don't worry.
No, I thought the first half was pretty dry. I thought both teams sort of cancelled each other out a little bit. Their keeper, by the way.
Is it Max Stryek?
Max Stryek. I don't know how bad McCrory's got, but if he's sitting on the bench behind that guy, my word, he pulled off a couple of good saves, but he just looked, to be fair, he pulled off a couple of good saves, but he was so giddy. He was like all over the place. For the goal, the first goal, Tams's, he sort of just got rooted to he got wrong-footed a little bit, but...
He just kind of watched it, didn't he? He didn't even move. I think the sports team commentary said it looked like he was standing in cement, which I thought was pretty good.
Yeah, pretty accurate, to be honest.
The first half, it wasn't really full of chances. Jason Kerr had a kind of hook shot kind of back across the goal, but that was a half chance maybe.
Yeah, I think he got caught in about 5 mines.
Yeah, but Chris Kane won the free kick for the first goal. He got battered all around all day yesterday, didn't he?
I tell you what, he does some graft, and we can talk about the whys and wheres of a centre forward who doesn't really seem to have a primary job of scoring goals. It looks like he's been told not to really bother about putting the ball in the goal.
Just win free kicks.
Yeah, whatever job he does, he really puts his heart and soul into it. And yesterday, he took so many knocks. He got kicked from pillar to post, but he just kept going. He kept getting up, and he was central to a lot of very good things Saints did yesterday.
Well, he was. He was fouled for the first goal, which Scott Tanser put away with his left foot. Great finish, went in at half-time, 1-up. Second half, he was actually the man fouled again for the ball going in the box for Sean Rooney's goal.
He was. Where the foul, came from. Wasn't a position you'd really expect a centre-forward to be in. So he'd come out quite sort of far out to the right side and quite deep on the pitch. But he was back there, he was grafting, he won the free kick, and it was a lovely goal after that.
Yeah, it was a nice head flick. My feed actually went down at that point, and then it flicked back on just as Rooney was off celebrating. Shock horror. Thanks, Livi. £20 well spent. Could have made it 3. Rooney filled in the box, just got to the ball first, and I can't remember who he was taken out by. It might have been Devlin. Stevie May steps up for the penalty, and he's been awfully lucky with penalties this season, scoring them. Keepers have got their hands to them. They've sneaked under his body. But he was unlucky this time because look back at the keeper. He was about 4 foot off his line.
Yeah, he was closer to the 6-yard line than he was his goal line. Yeah. But it wasn't a good penalty.
No, it wasn't.
So, and if he's desperate for a goal, he really is. Let's say he scored his last couple of penalties. It was probably fair enough that he took it, but it was very much power over any sort of precision.
Yeah, it was kind of head down, foot through the ball as hard as you can. And I'd say the keeper who was off his line, I've spoke to referees about this afterwards. It's the assistant's decision to make, unless it's really clear cut. They're kind of told. It's difficult from the angles you see in the telly, but he does look off his line.
He was off his line. But the thing was, if he'd been on his line, he still would have saved it.
That's it.
He didn't need to be off his line for that one. All he had to do was go the right way. But, I mean, that happens. People miss penalties.
That's it. It would have been 3-0, game over, but They score up the other end, sneaks over the line to make it a kind of nervy last 5 minutes or so.
Yeah, it was. And I thought the game by that point, probably even before the penalty miss, it was getting really sort of niggly and petty. And particularly Livingston, he started it. But Livingston started that. There was little kicks, there was little shoves here and there. And then Saints sort of got dragged into that and maybe just added to the tension a little bit because there was daft free kicks being given away all over the place, which you don't really want. When you're 2-1 up, you sort of just want to control the ball, control the game, which Saints did by and large for most of the game. But by that point, it got dragged into, like I say, a little sort of petty affair almost. Yeah. And it just didn't help. No one had control of the ball in that last 5 minutes.
It'll be interesting to see how Livi kind of come back from this one. Not being a circumstance they're too familiar with recently under Martindale. But I'm not any more confident going into the cup final after today than I was before the match. Cup finals are cup finals. Anything can happen.
I would be very surprised if the cup final was a similar game to that. That was a very tactical affair. I'd say from both sides. Both sides sort of having something to play for in the wider scheme of things. In terms of league positioning, well, basically just league positioning. Both sides, particularly Saints, needing to just get points on the board at the minute. Livi wanting to keep the good feeling going, keep the run going. Cup final will be, I hope it'd be different. I hope it'd be a more open game. I hope both sides maybe have a little bit more adventure about them. I'm not saying that Saints didn't play well all yesterday. They were very, very good. Absolutely fantastic tactical performance.
Wait, Sean Rooney, though, that guy just gets better and better and better every week.
Ronaldo?
The very same. The Bells Hill Cafe.
He was very good. He was absolutely exceptional. I think the rest in midweek, where James Brown came in against Rangers, I thought the rest looked refreshed. I thought against Killy, maybe looked like he looked a bit leggy against Killy. Mm-hmm. A little bit tired. But I thought the rest of midweek did in the world of good. And he's just gone from strength to strength. A few of us probably said when he first came in, didn't look that far up to scratch.
I think he's playing a brand new position. By trade, he's a right back and can play centre back, but he's now a winger.
He's a winger. Yeah, I also think there was a bit of a step up for him, maybe. He's come from Cali in the Championship. For that, he's not played at this higher level. Queen's Park, Dunfermline, Queen of South, and his season at York City. So maybe a little bit of time to adjust in that. But everything he's done, he's just got better and better. He's played at centre half. I thought maybe a little bit of a turning point for him when he played at centre half in the absence of Jason Kerr at Parkhead, and he was absolutely outstanding that day. Absolutely fantastic.
He's a big lump of a man, isn't he?
Oh, he's a big lad, and he looks like he's not frightened of a bit of a tussle. He's not frightened of getting stuck in. He backs himself. He looks confident.
I think he's going to have to probably get stuck in because after that game yesterday, I think the main tactic they're going to have is get him out that game on the cup final. That'll be their aim, is get him man-marked out that game.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not a bad tactic at all for them to use. It's just whether they can do it. And I hope they can. He's playing basically as a winger. He's driving play on. He's got goals in him as well. We were saying last week about the threat Saints have got from set pieces. There's no bigger threat on set pieces than Sean Rooney at all. So I think he's going from strength to strength, and I think he's a heck of a player.
So 2-1 Sainties, another good win away on the road. Just need to bring that home form.
Yeah, absolutely.
Plastic pitches seem to be the way forward then, it seems.
That's it. I mean, after all them years of moaning about them and moaning about how Macca couldn't play on them and all that, get one in at McDermott or just move out onto that one in the car park.
That's it, just play in the Astro full time now. Saints have got a cup final song. Absolutely brilliant.
I don't like to make big statements, Sam. I'm not prone to hyperbole. But that might be the greatest song ever written.
Wow, that's a bold statement.
It's bold, but it's justified.
Absolutely agree. It's a slightly change of pace from My Fair Maid, the cup final song.
It is. It's very different from that. Just a big shout out to Ollie, who was the author of Fair Maid, an old pal of mine from uni and all listens to the pod.
Ollie Whale, hello.
No, I really hope it sort of don't get behind it, because it's just, it's someone who's just taking it off their own steam to do an unofficial cup song. So it's not exactly like Ozzy's Dream or something like that, is it? As far as cup final songs go.
Come on, you Reds, for status quo. It needs to be taken at face value. It doesn't take itself too seriously. Bit of an exclusive here for you, Dan. We have got the singer, Scarlett Skylar Ray, on our show next week.
This is just a wonderful bit of news. This is absolutely exceptional. I've got so many questions about those sort of 2.5 minutes.
Lots of questions, and I'm sure she's willing to answer most of them. If you've not heard the full song, go to our Dogger Saints Twitter page where we shared a link to it. Give it a wee listen, but we'll talk about it more next week when we get Scarlett Skylar Ray on our show. Right, Dan, do you think it's time to get our guest on?
I think it is, Sam.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. For anybody under the age of 30 might not be overly familiar with the character, so I'll go through some details about him. So today's special guest is a name that will be awfully familiar to an awful lot of Saints fans. In the club book Manifest Destiny, Alistair Blair writes, "The most intriguing signing of the season, without a doubt, was a junior footballer from Dunbar United. Kevin Twaddle has a name which does not sound like it should belong to a cult hero, but that is what the lanky ex-painter quickly became. Not since the halcyon days of Roddy Grant had the average Saints player warmed so much to a player. Twaddle had a bit of pace, loads of ability, and couldn't head a ball to save his life. Kevin scored 6 goals in 23 games, but would go on to face a much more severe test in the second season once defenders had seen his style. He was that most precious of footballing commodities, an entertainer." After Saints, he moved to Premier with Wraith Rovers before playing for Motherwell, Hearts, and finishing his career with a brief stint at St Mirren. In the background, throughout his career, however, a serious gambling addiction took over his life, which came to the public knowledge after his retirement. He has since released a book on the matter and continues to help people through these circumstances. An inspiration to many and a hero to Saints fans, I'd like to introduce Kevin Twaddle.
Fucking hell, wow. That was absolutely beautiful, thank you.
Good man. Before we get into everything, you were on the co-commentary yesterday with Stephen Watt at the Livingston game. How did you find that?
Yeah, it's certainly different. I mean, I've never done commentary before. I've done radio and stuff like that, but I've never actually done... But Stephen was brilliant. He come over really well, and he made it really easy for me, to be fair. There was just wee bits I was coming in, we just add a wee bit of hilarity and stuff like that to pretty much do our first half, and then obviously getting the goal kind of picked us both up, and then getting the other goal was... it was nice. It was really nice. Something different, but really enjoyed it. I'd definitely do it again anyway. Yeah, well,
Stephen's not a trained commentator by any stretch. He was kind of thrown in the deep end at the start of the season, so he's learning every game as well. But listening back to you yesterday, it was sounded like quite a double act, the two of you.
He done well for someone who doesn't do obviously commentary. I mean, by the way, it's very difficult. I mean, I've got gifted a gab and stuff like that as well, but you've got to know the players. He was doing a wee bit of studying about the players and that, especially the Livingston boys and that as well. I mean, I knew most of the St Johnstone boys, but no, he done absolutely brilliant. It's actually, you know what's really nice about it? It's nice to actually see his reaction, and the other young Sam that was in as well. Their reaction when St Johnstone scored, and it was nice to actually see how much it meant to them. Obviously, it's nice for me to watch St Johnstone scoring, but the actual diehards, Sam was bouncing up, walking up and down for the last 5 minutes of the game, thinking that they were obviously got to score and equalise, and that was really nice. I really liked that. It showed how much. As much as they're doing it for St Johnstone TV, massive St Johnstone fans as well.
Yeah, he's one of the lucky ones who I've not held back and told him how jealous I am that he gets to go to the games and we have to watch it on the telly.
There's been a few unrepeatables from us and everyone who knows him, I think.
He said that, to be honest. He went on about that yesterday but it's a privileged position. I mean, he's getting to watch all the games. Yeah, it was a privilege to do it, actually. It was kind of humble to be asked for to do it. And these are kind of things you appreciate once you stop. When you're playing, you're in that kind of bubble of playing football. And it was really nice to be asked. And getting a win was brilliant as well. It was nice to see Callum in that as well. Callum was a player when I was there as well, so it was really nice to see him as well.
Did you get a catch up with him? Did you speak to him?
I seen him, but never got a chance to speak to him. He was obviously down in the dugout, but he was doing a press thing after it. If it'd been any other kind of time where I went with Sam, but I mean, the hullabaloo round even getting in, up to where we were, and then even Sam having to go away around to do his press thing after it and that, whatever. It was just, I thought, you know what, I'll just leave it, because I would have liked to have gone down and spoke to him, but no, he's never changed. He still looks the same, which would be older, obviously, but it's really nice to see him doing well. I mean, you would never have thought, I was telling the boys yesterday, you never have thought he would have went into management. He was very quiet, certainly not like me anyway. He was really... focused on training, and he just was a proper good pro.
Good at all sports as well,
really good player as well. Wonderful player, tremendous golfer as well. He had the opportunity to play golf. And I was at the club, he had the opportunity to go either way, but he obviously wanted to play football. But I think because he was so willing to learn and listen, and he was such a good lad, all the boys loved him, and he kind of just grasped anything he could get a hold of, and became better and better and better, and then ultimately got his good move for his. He's a brilliant lad. one person I never would have thought went into management. Very quiet. He's a lot like Robbie Nielsen, to be fair. The two of them are cut with the same cloth. The two of them are the exact same.
Clever guys as well, aren't they? I think Davison's got a degree as well. And
yeah, very bright.
Aye.
Very bright.
Bro.
But yeah, he's doing amazing, so it's good.
We'll go back to the start of your career. Started kicking a ball professionally, well, not professionally, but right, 16, 17-year-old. You had the chance to go to Ajax. Was that right? Did you get offered a chance to go out there, or what was the script for that?
No, we'd been over there to play in competitions and stuff like that when I was younger, and there was a lot of stuff getting said at the time about clubs interested in that, whatever. But when I came back here, I was obviously playing my Dyna Hibs at the time, and I got the opportunity to sign with Hibs when I was 16. I was just turning 16, and a boy Ben McGovern and his lad played in our team as well with Dyna Hibs, Paul, who was a really good footballer as well. Ben asked me he was a chief scout for Hibs, to go into Hibs. They wanted to sign me to go in full time for a couple of years, obviously as an apprentice kind of thing, and learn the trade. But I was a massive Jambo at the time. I mean, I'd been watching Hearts when I was 9, 10-year-old. I'd been all around the world watching them until I was 15, 16. I never missed a game. I was everywhere. I've been everywhere to watch them abroad, European games. I was a fanatic. So I know what it was like a wee bit yesterday watching the boys jumping and doing that, whatever. It's a wee bit different now. I'm a wee bit older and things are a wee bit more a priority now, but I and had the opportunity to do it, but didn't I don't know, just stupidity, I think. I thought I can't go and play with Hibs. I'm a Jambo, everybody knows it. And
just an immature 16, 17-year-old.
Stupid. I mean, I've made a lot of stupid mistakes in my career, but that was definitely one of them. And my uncle was a managing director of a painting firm that my dad worked for, Roland Decorators. I started working, and I can always remember, I have a poor memory, to be fair, but pretty much selective memory. But I can remember actually working in the Cockthorne Hotel in Glasgow, and I'm leaving at like 6 o'clock in the morning to be through there for 7, getting a cup of tea, starting at 7:30, not getting back to like 7 o'clock at night. And after a couple of months, I thought, what am I doing here? I mean, it's bonkers. I had the opportunity to play football, but that had kind of passed, and then obviously I went on and done 4 years painting, and then played a year for that. Played for my amateur team for a year, scored loads of goals, but the league the standard was poor. Then went to sign with Dunbar, never played many games in Dunbar, and then obviously the opportunities come up to go to play the trial match with St Johnstone.
Yeah, about that. Dunbar. It was a Wednesday night. It was a reserve game at Dunfermline. You finish your work, you head through, pick up the story.
That's a real fun story, to be fair. I mean, I was working during the day as well. I went covered in paint and all that, but I walked in, the boys were all caning me. And I kind of walked in, and I've had obviously the perceptions I know now, like if a team gets beaten Saturday, you'll see a lot of first team boys being involved in reserve games because they're getting punished. And I walked in, and honestly, I was in my element. I was walking in, there was loads of the first team boys were there, from Harry Curran to Tommy Turner, boys that I'd kind of watched playing, and I was kind of just watching them. Was kind of being in the dressing room, and went out and played 60 minutes. I kind of thought I'd done all right, to be fair. And there was another boy trialling at the same time as well. Paul Stewart took him out after the game, spoke to him, and I was still in the dressing room and nothing had been said to me. And I thought, well, that's obviously I've not done well enough. Whatever. I got taken off after about 60 minutes, but I hardly breathed. It was
hanging out
you're
your
going
arse.
to play on a Saturday. We're playing against Bornig on a Saturday, and you're going and playing a first team game against Dunfermline, a reserve game that was fully. Both teams were kind of fully first team players as well, and it was a different level of fitness altogether. But as I say, I felt done pretty well. And then he took me outside, and he was talking away, and all the lights went off. It was pitch dark. It was hilarious. I'll never forget it. And then he just went back inside again. He just said, "Listen, you've got great pace. It's a great commodity in the game." He says, "You've got good both feet crossing ball." He says, "Your fitness is poor." He says, "You'll know obviously come in and play straight away." He says, "I would think you'll probably have to move up to Perth and maybe do a couple of months of training, and then you'll get an opportunity to be about the first team." He says, "But until then, you'll play loads of reserve games." And I said, obviously, he says, "Would you come up the Thursday next day night with people, my mum and dad? The people come up from Dunbar, will organise money, would you come up and sign, and that'll be a football player?" It just kind of was done like that. The Thursday, I was working again. I was working for a boy who had no many boys working for him, so I couldn't really just leave him in the lurch as well. Although he wanted to leave anyway, he was brand new, he was buzzing that I knew it. And that was me. I went up the Thursday night, signed. I think the club made, we're talking about yesterday, I didn't know it's a record signing because I was in Dunbar about 3 weeks ago. And it's amazing how much when you go back to places like that, and even hearing a wee bit of what you've said tonight, the nice thing that you've said tonight, you kind of forget a lot of your, but the niceties that were said when I was in Dunbar were frightening, and people walking about saying, there was a kind of disabled kind of boy, and he was walking about shouting, this is a club record signing, come and meet him, and it was just so nice. There was people there, less fortunate people, let's say, and it was just nice to see everybody. Actually, it was really emotional, came away from it and thought, so much gratitude that people remembered you. I mean, it sustained the club can be sustainable for a right few years as well. They made a percentage of my move to Wraith Rovers as well. They made a percentage of that. But the funniest part of the story was on the Thursday I'd signed. The Friday, and Paul Sturrock would say to me, on the Saturday, you'll come to the game at Dunfermline and you'll do your medical, and then that'll be you'll officially signed. He says, there's obviously been nothing wrong with your medical and that, whatever, you'll be fine. He says, but you'll come in, I'll let you introduce the boys and that, whatever. He says, but as I said, a couple of months before, that was the Thursday night at 8:30, where it's still at the club at night. Comes back during the Fridays, getting ready to go out on the Friday night to get steaming.
As you do.
So I'm getting ready and that. But the last year I was with at the time says, phone she says, it's Paul Sturrock. And I'm in the bedroom. I'm allowed to swear on this,
Aye, crack on. Aye, yeah.
He's Paul Sturrock. I say, talking piss. I says, that's not Paul Sturrock. Put the phone down. Somebody's taking a piss. It's one of my mates, and I know what they're all like. And so Joe put the phone down. 5 minutes later, phone goes again. Doing my hair and all that, getting the fake tan and all that. He goes, buzzing. And she said to me, it's Paul Sturrock. And I says, just tell me to piss off. Put the phone down. Didn't even answer it and puts the phone down. Phone goes again, third time. And he says to her, if he doesn't come to the phone now and doesn't answer the phone, tell him what God come for his medical. I won't. I was like, fuck, straight to the phone. I'm like, how you doing and that? He's like, I said, listen, I'm sorry. I said, I obviously thought that. And he was just laughing. He said, listen, there might be a chance you're on the bench in the morning. And I was like, fucking wow, it's dream come true stuff. And that was it. Went to the game. And I sat in that dressing room. It was also my first day being a football player. I mean, I was watching Alan Preston, Paul Cherry, Alan Main, all boys that, I mean, geez, they were Peter
Davenport, yeah, that was the way to say him, yeah.
Legends to me. Oh, Alan Morgan, who was doing really well at the time as well. Young lad, still keeping contact with, great lad as well. But I had all these names and all these people, and I was Jim Weir. I'm sitting looking at them all going, Jesus God, this is like. And I was totally. He mentioned the team. I can't remember what he said on the team, and I thought when he was still talking, I thought, I wonder if he's actually mentioned the subs. I don't even know if I'm part of this or not. I was that much
starstruck, just staring at everybody there.
Starstruck. Absolutely, first time in my life I'd been starstruck for sure. Just in my element. I mean, I was a painter, daft painter, and he had mentioned the team, and I'm still sitting there, and I thought, obviously I'm not involved, but I was still in my element. And he said, the subs will be, and I was the last name out in the subs, and I was like, fucking wow. My dad was there, my mate Billy was there, my other mate Stevie was there. I'd got more tickets to come and watch a game, and the funny part about it all is we're 3-0 down after about 25 minutes, half an hour or something, and John Blackley's having a go at Paul Cherry, and he's off. Jeez, he was going off. He's not. And I never knew John Blackley. I knew Paul Sturrock obviously, but I never knew who John Blackley was. And oh man, they were having a ding dong on the side of the touchline. I thought, oh my God, almighty me. I mean, I was a really quiet, shy kind of boy as well. Yeah. I was really quiet. Goes in the dressing room. John Blackley. I mean, anybody knows him. John Blackley was hard as fuck. He was like a proper machine, by the way. Like even playing, he was solid. And every time he, and I think all the boys knew that. They all had that respect for him. And Paul Cherry was one of these kind of gallus kind of boys that would maybe just teeter over the edge. My God, we're coming at half time and John Blackley's standing in front of him and he's shouting at him. And every time Sloop, that's what it's called, Sloop, every time Sloop shouted, he used to spit. And Paul Cherry's face was covered in fucking spit. And I'm like to myself, what the fuck? I was shitting myself. I thought, whatever we did, didn't hit me on the day, like, just didn't hit his own.
Give me a roll in a bucket now, quick.
Oh, I'm thinking to myself, get me back to painting. And then, as I said, half an hour ago, went on and I done pretty well. I ran about daft and come off, and I was absolutely, half an hour blowing out my arse. I was knackered. Doesn't help. He comes in after the game and the manager's slaughtering them all. And then he starts saying, and that laddie there, talking to me, that laddie knows what it's like to fucking work. He's a painter. He'll come covered in fucking paint, look stupid, and that knows what it's like to work, and that knows what it's like to run about for half an hour, and that's what he's should look at. And
great, thanks.
Denny fucking, how's it going to fucking hate me? And that was it. I walked in the door on the Monday morning, into the dressing room on the Monday morning, and they're all like, it's the gaffer's dad. Gaffer's dad's here. Hey, gaffer's lad, he's here.
Blue-eyed boy.
And that was it.
It's funny. Well, we had Kieran McInnesby on last week, probably a youngster when you were there, and he was talking. We were talking off air about like John Blackley roasting. He was roasting Danny Griffin, I think it was, and his teeth flew out.
Oh, by the way, and you know what? He's an amazing man as well. He's somebody I've kept in touch with as well. He's an amazing man, really special person. Like through my career, he's always been a really special person. But I mean, nobody would ever. Paul Sturrock was a bit a crazy dude as well. He went quite bonkers as well. But John Blackley's up there with the most. And I think, as you said, I mean, he was vulnerable for the teeth coming out. But he spat every time he was shouting. And I mean, whoever he was near was getting spat on, but you couldn't see him. You were just sitting there. You couldn't say nothing. It was just petrifying, because he would have just battered you, to be fair, because he was a hardy boy. But for there, that was me. I was, I think the next game week I played St Mirren. I set up Peter Davenport for a goal, diving header. And that was that. I can remember the next game we played St Mirren. That game, I can remember after about 20 minutes, somebody whipped the ball and I got ahead of somebody at the front post and flicked it and hit the post. And I can remember for about 30 seconds, and I ain't shitting you, I'm like, I just hit the fucking post in the first division. I just hit the post. Wow.
From doing taping and filling the week before.
I could hear the boys shouting, get back the park. And I'm like, wow. I just hit the post, and then at the very end, as I said, I set up Peter Davenport for the winner. And for there, it just seemed to, it took off. I was very, very fortunate, to be fair.
Would you have done a pre-season? Your second season, were you doing the hill sprints up Canole Hill, stuff like that?
The pre-seasons were, like every pre-season you go to, they're all the same. You think when you get in at lunchtime, you can't go back out in the afternoon again, but you always seem to be able to do it. So you know yourself as a runner. I was sitting talking yesterday about this as well, because I know you're all day the running and that as well, but you always get it done. It doesn't. It's a thing that. It's one thing that a person, when I sit and explain to somebody about a football player, everyone, you'd be lucky enough to be able to do anything as a person getting to come in and be a footballer. But there's not many normal people that could go through a pre-season. It's just, we've been all over Perth. We were all over there in pre-season.
Yeah. During your time at Saints, in the background going on was obviously the start of your gambling problems. Probably started before you joined Saints, if I'm honest with you. And it led to things like obviously not paying for petrol money for the players and that. Reading your book, it's just full of guilt and remorse and about everybody you've kind of came into contact through during football. Obviously all regrettable stuff, but did it hamper your time at St Johnstone?
To be fair, I've always said I've been very fortunate to have 10, 11 years playing football and actually doing as well as what I've done, because my life is utter chaos. And anybody that kind of knew me, and anybody that knows me now, obviously, and all the things that I've came publicly about and stuff like that, I mean, the one thing I probably am now is I'm obviously I'm older, I'm more responsible. I've got a wee one and that obviously as well, so I'm more responsible to life. I was young, I was naive, I mean, I abused. I mean, I wasn't even half the time paying petrol money, and I used to moan at Alan Preston dropping me like probably about half a mile from my house. I thought, why do you don't drop me at my house? So that's just the kind of, I wasn't a very nice individual as well. I probably will have come out to a lot of people as a nice guy and helping people, and I still had that side to me, to be fair. I've always been a nice kind of helpful guy, but the kind of things in with and that, whatever, I never really spoke to Biscuits with much respect, and Ian Ferguson, boys that were really good lads as well. Roddy, I still speak to Roddy now, to be fair. It's nice now that, I mean, I went through a lot of years after playing football that I couldn't bump into anybody I'd played football or anybody I'd played football against. I was mortified. I wouldn't go near anybody, and I'd be with my mates, whatever, I'd be in a shop, somebody would come in. Stephen Presley, I've seen him 100 times, and I would try to get the shop as quick as I could, or just sheer embarrassment, kind of the way I live my life. But I'm not like that now. I mean, you can't go through life like that. I'll not forget what I've done. I've moved on a hell of a long way, and I've definitely became a much, much better person. But you learn through your time, make mistakes. I wouldn't be the person on the day if I hadn't done all the stuff I've done, and I'm a good person today, so I'm very fortunate to be where I'm today. A lot of good people going about me. I still do my meetings for gambling. Took on a steps programme last year to change as a person as well. It's changed my life, to be fair, and it lets me be a better human being every day, and a better dad and better partner and husband that I want to be every day.
Brilliant. Great to hear. Reading your book, Life in the Line, it is available online, Amazon, all your book stockists. It covers all your footballing stuff, but obviously it's intertwined with what was going on in the background, which was the gambling and getting money and spending all your wages every single month. You moved from St Johnstone to Wraith Rovers. They were in the Premier League at the time. Saints were in the First Division, flying, but the offer for Wraith Rovers came in and you decided to move. Was that purely is that a money thing, I presume?
I spoke yesterday. That'll be the biggest, well, that's the second biggest regret in my football career. I mean, anybody in their right brains, anybody with an ounce of knowledge, it was mere money, to be fair, and that was the only reason I went. I moved for monetary factors to get me a bit of bother and going to St Johnstone. Kind of moved there, and it happened everywhere I moved to. Everywhere I moved to, the money was kind of becoming, it was just paying money that I had to pay. It was travelling through my whole career, moving from club to club. But I was talking yesterday on sober kind of head, that would be the second biggest mistake in my career, because I knew without a shadow of doubt St Johnstone would win the league next year. I knew it was going to happen. They were too good, too strong. They'd built up this kind of, and I mean, I was a bigger player at the time too. I suffered a wee bit of injury second season, to be fair, at St Johnstone, but I still would have been a massive part of that. But there was obviously that wee opportunity to go and play in the Premier League, but I knew before I went we would get relegated. And there was no way the race squad was going to stay up. The boys he was bringing in, Jimmy Thompson, wonderful person, great guy, but the boys he were bringing in were never, I mean, you're playing against boys like the Canyos, Larsons, Loudrops, Ken Gascoignes. I mean, that's all the boys you're playing against. And Ken, I was coming for St Johnstone, Davy Craig was coming for Airdrie or something, there was boys coming for just, and I knew, see, after that's what I was talking about yesterday. See, by Christmas, it was so funny because St Johnstone were just up and Wraith were all doing. So I knew where I was going.
Passing them on the way past.
But you know, I never. Anybody would announce your brains, and it showed how. And I was talking about that yesterday. It was stupid. Some of the things, the decisions I made. Through money, terms, gambling, wise to get me problems, but that was one eye, because I knew what was happening. St Johnstone were a far better team than what Wraith were. Better club, better people. I love my time at Wraith, and kind of I've still got a lot of good people there. I've been back and done a lot of good stuff for them. I was well liked, and I was lucky there as well. But I should never have ever have left. But my gambling, and as you talked about before, do you think that makes any difference to you? That's why I left. I left for monetary terms, so it wasn't about the move to Wraith. I mean, Wraith, yeah, it was a wee chance to play in the Premier League against great stars, and then sometimes, you know what, in life I could have got injured. I could have had a career injury. I would never have got that opportunity. I was coming for a painter, so it just was meant to be. And I went there, and I done really well when I went there as well. But I missed all the boys. And as I said, it was stupid because I knew what was going to happen.
Well, nothing wrong with being a painter, Kev. It's a noble trade. 6:30 or something tomorrow.
Well.
There's 3 painters on here. I was that bad at it, right? My boss is Kev. I'm from Blackpool. So my boss, who was my dad's mate that I was doing a bit of work for, dropped me off one night, said, right, I'll see you tomorrow. And overnight, moved to fucking Bristol. He got some work up in Bristol. That's where he was from, to be fair. He moved out of Bristol. And I rung him a couple of days later. I'm like, yeah, is there any work going? He's like, no, I've got to Bristol.
Thanks for that. How shit were you, Dan?
Sure, I know.
The fact you had to move 400 miles in the wrong direction. Interesting point. You say you moved to Wraith for money. The gambling, you've said, wasn't about the money. It wasn't about making money or the losing of the money. It was it was about the addiction. It was about the gambling. Like I said, it wasn't about the thrill of making money. That'd be fair to say?
I've learned that now, but you didn't know that when you're going along the road, do you? You think... I mean, I've learned a lot of things over especially the last year. We've gone through these steps as well. That, you know what, my problem's never been gambling. I realised that gambling's my solution to not being able to deal with your life. It took me a year to go through these steps and find out a lot of stuff that's blown me away from when I've been growing up and stuff like that. But I never knew that at the time. I mean, I was just a naive boy that was wasting money left, right and centre. It wouldn't matter what I got. As I said, the easiest way to put it was somebody could have said to you, listen, I'll put you in that room there and I'll fill it with 500 quid notes. I'd want £1,000 notes. It wouldn't make any odds to me. There was never enough. Whatever it was never enough. So, and realistically, when I finished playing football, I didn't need money. I was making really good money every week to survive, to have a nice life, to have a nice house, flat, and I wanted to have. But I mean, I had nothing because I could realistically say that every single time I got my wages, they were gone. So, and it kind of, obviously, it leaves you, emotionally, it leaves you so many ups and downs. And that's why you obviously suffer with a wee bit of anxiety, depression. I got to Motherwell, suffered a wee bit of anxiety, depression at Motherwell as well. And I mean, you're thinking that people are thinking you're living this life off, but you've got that many masks on, letting people see that everything's great and everything's in deep down. You're just a lost boy. And I was lost all the way through my football career, to be fair. And it is funny because if you were to ask, and Kieran was on last week, if you'd actually spoke about me, I got an amazing with Kieran. He's a great kid, absolute great kid. But if you were to ask anybody at St Johnstone, anybody, and I mean anybody, any club I've been at, they'll all go, legend, what a guy, funniest boy you'll ever get to meet. And there you go. And I lived a life that was nothing short of having a mask everywhere I went just to kind of fit in. And I thought my comedy, my humour, my tongue was vile. I mean, I used to just bring so many people down to make myself feel better. I treated women like, that's saying you go through my football career, I could probably talk about my nightclubs and I could in the carrying on that I've done in them. That's how pretty much. But it's part of my story, part of my learning, part of what I've got today and what I appreciate today for some of the things I've done when I was younger. But yeah, the money's a material. You're making that much money, you didn't need any extra money. It's the thrill of the bet. But even at that, as I said, over the last year, I've realised that gambling was never my problem. It was just my solution. It was my place to run away and hide. And could have been drink, it could have been drugs, could have been sex, could have been anything. But unfortunately I chose gambling, and yeah, that's kind of where it went.
After Motherwell, it all went a bit sour at Motherwell. You ended up at Hearts. You had a chance. I was speaking to Stephen Watt, who you did the comms with yesterday, and he said you had a chance to go down to Sheffield United.
That must be the biggest idiotic thing I've ever done, probably my whole life, never mind my football career. I went down there on Tuesday, went down, met Neil Warnock, went for dinner with him and his missus, Kevin Blackwell and his missus, stayed in the hotel. My agent came down next day, met the chairman, spoke terms, offered me a 3-year deal. Ridiculous money, thousands and thousands of pounds. Relocation fee as well. I had a 3-year with a year option as well. The year option was mine if I wanted to stay there. If I didn't, I could leave. I could have played 3 years and never played a game. I could have stayed an area and got paid again. It didn't. Great signing on fee as well. It wouldn't have settled me for life. It would have, but it wouldn't have, because I was a sponsor and I had it. It wouldn't have mattered what I was getting. But I went down there, and I mean, I'll never forget, and it's something I'll never forget through my football career. And I always, when I still think about him now, or I see him on the TV, and I can remember him, and no one's ever in my football career made me feel like this. We walked up the tunnel, we walked up the steps, big Sheffield United thing on the hang. It's like the Liverpool thing that they all tap before they go out, and we're up on this. We get up the steps, gets out on the, so out in the park. It was all standing at the time as well. And he said, "This is," I can't remember what he called it behind the goals, and it was a big stand. It reminded me an old time castle with a big stand, and he's standing and he said to me, this was after he spoke terms, and I think he was obviously just trying to entice me. This is how much he wanted me. And he spoke to us about how many times he wanted me in my career. He's tried to get me pretty much a few times in my career, but it's never been feasible to get me. And he's saying, "Listen, I know what the people of Sheffield are like. I know what they're like." And he says, "You know what? I can even hear them now. I can hear them singing your name, and you're going to be blasting doing that line, whipping buzzers. You're going to be loved here. They'll love you." And even talking about it now, I'm not joking, I stood there and the hairs on the back of my neck were like, fucking hell, this boy absolutely loves me. I've never ever had that feeling of, he was desperate for me to go. And I'm the most humble guy ever. He was desperate for me to go. So I pretty much said to him, standing there, "You know what, fucking, I can't, there's no way I can say no to this." I mean, I said, "I'll go back up the road, speak to my family and that." And I went up the road, and it kind of was just forgotten about up the road. Obviously, Hearts come in, I went in and spoke to Craig Levine. My agent had gave me a couple of days, obviously, because they wanted an answer right away, Sheffield United. They gave me a couple of days so I could go speak to Hearts. I never knew about that, obviously. I went in and spoke to Hearts. Craig Levine was like, "Coming here." They offered me a couple of £1,000. I mean, I was getting offered thousands of things. I was getting offered 4 times the money doing it. It's just ridiculous. 1 year with a year option that was Hearts' interest. So after a year, I was shite. You'd be at the door. You never had a leg to stand on, or no sign, non-fee, small relocation, and I signed with Hearts. I mean, even talk about it now, it's just
mind-boggling.
And you know
stuff.
what, my nana was. This is a true story. But it shows in me though that regardless of where I was in life, and I mean, I was in a really bad place when I signed with Hearts, really bad place. Regardless of the money I was being offered and what it could have afforded me to do, and all the rest of it. My nana was dying at the time. I'm a really, really, really close family. I love my mum and dad, and pure proper mummy's boy. I adored my nana. Absolutely adored her. I mean, she was. Even talking about now, we get really emotional talking about her. She was an incredible person. She kind of gave me. She was like another mum to me as well. And she was dying at the time. And even kind of looking back as well, that was even although, I mean, I was deluded with Hearts and it was my dream move, a massive part of that, and a bigger percentage of that was that my nana was dying and I didn't want to be away when she died. And obviously I signed with Hearts and she died when I was at Hearts. So and then obviously I play 6 games at Hearts, I break my neck, I get pins, screws and a cage put in my neck, 6 hours neurosurgery. It just was meant to be. The game was up. I actually got myself back training before the end of the season. I actually felt really good, believe it or not. And I kind of thought, something about me thought, I kind of think he's going to give me an opportunity because he really wanted me when I went there. I knew I'd caused him a bit of destruction when I played against his teams and that, whatever. So he knew kind of what I could do and the damage had already been. And I think he already knew the damage it was caused. I mean, I had sheriff officers at Tynecastle wanted money fees and that was. So he wasn't stupid. He knew exactly what I was. And you know what? He really couldn't help me as well. Craig Levine loves a bet and stuff like that as well. So he wasn't in a position to, and that was me out the door.
So after that, St Mirren picked you up, even though your heart was never really in it.
No, I went there, obviously. It gave me the opportunity to stay in football. I really wanted to actually, maybe not get into the coaching side, but John Coughlin was a really good guy, and I knew John. I knew Cough for years and went through there, and I just wasted his time as well. And I was travelling £550 a week or something. I went through there travelling, but after a couple of months, I was like, get me, I didn't want to be here. And I went to speak to I went and spoke to Cough. I said, listen, I don't want to be here. I'm sore back with travelling that way as well. That you get neurosurgery, you always get a thing called neurosis, and that'll affect other parts of your body. The back of my back was killing me travelling every day from Edinburgh all the way through to the Bronx. And I thought, I'm not going all the way through. And I spoke to the chairman, and they said we'll pay you off. And they tried to negotiate, however, they gave us 10 grand, and by the time I got home, I'd lost it. I got lost in the bookies in Glasgow. And that's no proud of saying that, that's embarrassment, but that's what I've done. It was gone.
The fact you can now admit that, it all came to a boil probably just after you left St Mirren, when you finally spoke out about the problems you were having, which is something you'd never done before. People might have thought something was going on, maybe they didn't know the extent of it, but that's the first most important step.
Yeah, I think, you know what, it's even more so now, because I do a lot of stuff now, like talks in schools and all these kind of things. Quite fortunate now to be able to put myself out there, because everybody, well, I'm lucky because I was a footballer, and it doesn't make you any different to anybody else, but to other people, and it kind of raises awareness a wee bit more, maybe whatever. But I've been very fortunate that you take great strength to go on and try and help other people as well. I tried to take my own life in 2004. I was just lost. I was in a place I'd never been before. Try to explain that to somebody, I'd nowhere to turn. I just kind of spunked my life away. It was I was lost, absolutely lost. I was in a place, a dark hole I called it, somewhere I'd never been before, and I didn't think I'd anywhere to turn. Tried to commit suicide, cry for help for sure, because I wasn't brave. Well, I won't say it's brave to commit suicide, whatever. But yeah, it's I wasn't brave enough to massive cry for help. And then when Gamblers Anonymous on Graham Bremer took me, and wee boy was at Man United at Hibs. He took me into GA on the Monday night. He was at GA every week, so he lived in a wee village down the hall that we lived in. He took me in October the 5th, 2004. And the one thing I got that night was I got hope, because I can even remember that afternoon. I can even remember thinking to myself, I don't even know why I'm gone, because there's nothing in life will ever be able to stop me gambling. And yeah, I went in there, and yeah, the one thing that it gave me was hope. I was in amongst people who knew exactly what I was like. I wasn't judged. I couldn't talk the whole meeting. I was broken hearted. Everybody knew who I was as well. I was a footballer. And I kind of think that's the first time I really got honest with myself through my whole life, because I was very vulnerable in front of everybody, because everybody knew who I was. Yeah, that was probably the toughest part, actually going through the door, but then being able to obviously open up. To be fair, I'll say a few words, I was broken. But the support I got that night was phenomenal. As I said, it was the one thing I did get and I took away from it, and I'll always remember, was hope. And yeah, that was me. I started getting tattoos all over my body, hope, and all these sayings that are in GA, and I've got them all over me.
And you got your own hope now, 6 years old?
In 2000, after a few heartaches as well. That really tough journey with Travel Baby as well. That was so painful as well. But yeah, I'm the luckiest guy in the world, man. I had my wee girl in 2015, yeah, she called Hope, and everybody thought, well, I was got tattoos all over me, Hope, and a lot of people didn't know my story or didn't know me. Wouldn't have known that, yeah, my wee girl, she was perfectly named. She wasn't well when she was born, and just went through so much heartache to have her. Then she eventually was in intensive care for weeks, then she was in high dependency, but she's here today, and you know what, I'm the luckiest guy in the world. Luckiest guy in the world. She's absolutely the best thing that is ever going to happen to me, and ever has happened to me. She is just absolutely wonderful. I love her so much.
How's the homeschooling?
You know what, and I'm gonna put myself out there to be shot down as well. You know what, because of my kind of attitude in life, and how we did these steps last year, you know what, I feel like the luckiest guy in the world. I'm a painter. I'd be painting every day. I would never get an opportunity to take Hope through any. And you know what, I'm no clever. I'm no bright. I'm bright in numbers, because I could work out anybody's bets for them. So at school, I couldn't do numbers. I couldn't do writing. I was thick as, end up a footballer, painter. But then now I can work with her, and I can see her growing, and I'm just full of gratitude I get the opportunity. Don't get me wrong, it's hard, because you know what, she's got so many traits that I've got. She doesn't listen. She's impatient. She's got an attention span that's worse than mine, and she's exactly like me as well. If she gets something wrong, or you're trying to explain something to her, she goes into this wee bubble, and she doesn't know how to show her emotion, but the end emotion is going to be she's going to cry. And that's what I was like. I was exactly the same. So, but you know what, it's been amazing. And didn't get me wrong, the one thing that has got me through lockdown last year and got me through this year is the steps that I've done, for sure. Gone through a 12-step recovery program. But the one thing is running, for sure. I'm the most lazy physically mentally boy you'll ever. I've got a train station in my estate that is 300 yards from me. If there's a train coming in 5 minutes, I'll not go for it because I'm not getting there in 3 minutes or 5 minutes, and there's no chance. I've just never ever been able or never wanted to run. I thought, you know what, last March it was, I started running 10 5Ks because I've seen all these people doing. I thought, if you can do it, I can surely do it. 5K can't be that far. About 33 minutes later, come back in, couldn't breathe, and
purple.
And it's the one thing I've found that's it's gave me so much peace and comfort and serenity to clear the day and just a wee bit of nature and stuff like that. It's wonderful, absolutely wonderful.
So, are you still helping with the GA or speaking to people? Where are you with that at the moment?
Yeah, I still obviously I've got my own business now, and obviously I've got Hope as well. So I still do meetings. I still take on people to try to take them through this recovery programme as well. I still do talk, like if it be for the radio or the TV, whatever. I still do stuff for TV, radio. And I went in fitness clubs 2 years ago, doing talks for the PFA as well, just to try to raise awareness of. I mean, gambling and football, I'm lucky by doing all these talks and stuff like that. I mean, gambling and football is absolutely crazy, man. I would think that they say that if you're putting bets on like coupons or you're putting the in and on, then you'd be susceptible to be banned for football, whatever. If you were to take everybody that was putting a bet on a Saturday morning, I'll guarantee you 80% of football would be off because all boys do it. Or, no, maybe to the extremes I do it, but it doesn't matter about the extremes you're doing it to. You're not meant to be doing it, and it's rife. It's everywhere. It's everybody can see it. And kind of one thing it really things me now as well, it pains me now, is because I know a lot of young kids and a lot of people. I help people privately as well. Not help people, I give them a wee bit of support and help, and I'm that ear for them to listen to, like people have been for me. But it's more the people you take down with you as well. You take in so many people as well. I took my mum and dad to places I wished I'd never have taken, my sister, my niece, to my wife. You lose all your morals, values. I was brought up to be a really good boy, and gambling took away everything, stripped me bare of morals, values, and that's difficult. But I mean, at the end of the day, as I said to you before, I've changed my life about a day, what I do today, helping others, and trying my best to be the best version of me every day. There's people go through life and don't get the opportunities that I get every day, so I'm very grateful for what I've got today.
Brilliant. Really appreciate this chat, Kev. Before we go, we're just want to bring up Brian Rice. Dan was talking about it just off air before you came on, and he was talking about how he obviously had his gambling issue, and when he went to the hearing at Hampden. Do you want to pick this up, Dan?
Cheers, Sam. Kevin, it's just a general area, because I know it's something you've sort of spoke about in the past. I always found it's this sort of alliance between gambling and football, and not in the way that you just sort of spoke about there, where players have a line on and whatnot. It's the fact that it seems to be everything in Scottish football anyway. Everything's sponsored by bookies. And I always said the Brian Rice thing, to me, just as a layman, he's walking in for his hearing. He walks through the door of Hampden Park, sponsored by William Hill. To me, that just seemed beyond parody. It was unbelievable. And do you think there's sort of any way, because I mean, it used to be with sports sponsorship, there's an awful lot of things sponsored by tobacco companies, and that sort of dissipated off. But it just seems a bit like it seems to have a bit of a stronger hold. And it's not just in football, it's in darts and stuff like that. The bookmaking companies have this real sort of stranglehold almost on sponsorship. And do you see any way we can really break with that?
I had this conversation. It's brilliant, Dan. I spoke about this 6 months ago. I mean, how can Scottish football? It's so hypocritical. I mean, and let me tell you right now, Brian Rice is the most brave. I've had conversations with Ricey as well. He's the most brave, courageous, and let me tell you, there's so many people in his position in Scottish football, if no worse than position he's in. But he's been honest enough to come up front and put his hand up and say, listen, I've had a problem, this is what I've been doing. And there's so many people getting investigated in gambling in Scottish football now, it's frightening. I could go into an arse thing with that, but it's so hypocritical. I mean, how can you take all this money off William Hill? How can you take all this money off Ladbrokes? How can you take all this money off Bet365? And then sit and say, listen, you're betting, right, here you go, there's a 7-8 game punishment, whatever. I mean, it just doesn't, but for people as well, I mean, for young kids, the advertising is frightening. I mean, you do have to take responsibility for yourself. I'll never ever blame gambling. I'll never blame Ladbrokes, Willie Hills, Bet365. I'll never blame anybody for what I've done. I'll take full responsibility. Not everybody's like me. Some people can have a wee normal bet and it's fine. I just feel sorry for all the younger boys that are playing football now. Boys that are on maybe a couple of £100, £200, £300. At smaller clubs, like your Hamiltons and stuff like that, clubs where boys aren't going to get a lot of money, younger boys I'm talking about, that are going to spunk their money the exact same as what I've done. And then how much it impacts their parents and how much it impacts people off their parents. And it's a huge big circle of, it's a disastrous conversation to have, because there must be companies out there that would will to take sponsorship to Scottish football, that you wouldn't have to rely on bookies, because it just, for me, it's so hypocritical. I mean, at William Hill Scottish Cup, and years and years ago, they were handing out gift vouchers for man of the matches, not for Willie Hills. I mean, come on, Jesus. But yeah, there's a moral way that things should be being done for sure, and it could be done with more grace and more. But these companies are willing to pay the big bucks, and they're willing. And as I say, there's a fine line, because I would never ever want to say that it's all their fault, because it isn't. We do have choices in life. A lot of people make all the wrong choices. But when you're parading it 24/7 on the telly, when I'm sitting watching football with Hope, because she likes to have a wee watch of the football and stuff like that as well, the last thing you watch is Bet365 coming the side of the thing. And I mean, it's all, the whole place. You're listening to adverts. You even make a bingos and things like that. I mean, I see a lot of women coming to meetings that are really struggling in life, and it's just sad. It really is sad. Gambling is an epidemic. See, football for me now. Football isn't like football when I first started playing football. Football was an amazing game of, it just brought everybody together. Football's a gambling industry now. Now you can bet on first corners, first shies. I always say I'd have been jailed. If this was in my time, I can put my hand on heart. Not with pride and being proud of it, I could put my hand on heart and have been in jail.
I was going to ask that, yeah.
Billy Davis used to say to us at the Motherwell, take centre, kick the ball down the corner flag, everybody pushed down, and we start the game down there. We're pressing high up the park. And man, you can kick the ball at the park now, and you get, I mean, booking, sending off. I've been kicking people all over the place with my brain that I was walking about with every day. I was walking about with financial difficulty every day. I'd have been kicking people left, right, and centre. It's just crazy, and that's not what football's all about. Football's all about what I see and used to, what I see in the boys yesterday, that love of their team, that love of your club, and I just find, I've lost all love with football. I didn't get as wrong. I loved yesterday. I love the clubs I've been at. I'll always be there to help if there was something to do. And I've always, even yesterday, felt so much gratitude for people treating me so well yesterday as well. Tuesday, missed the night, and I just feel so lucky for what I've had in my football career. But football's different now. It's no. I was going to watch Hertz. It was brilliant. It was a football, and it was. And now for me, everyone relates to gambling, and it's the same for all the boys that play it as well. And they always said years and years and years ago, this will only happen in South America, then it came into the continent, and it came into Europe, and before you know it, it's in Scottish football. There's people getting investigated in Scottish football as well. I mean, and how can they sit there and say, take these boys that are putting bets on, and then they're going to strip their computers, police are involved, and things like that. I mean, and you're sitting taking loads of money off these companies. It is very hypocritical. But as I said, for me, it's kind of thing we talk about, because we've all got our own choices to make in life, and they don't make you do it. All the days play on the vulnerable, and that's what they do. At the end of the day, if you're going to find a way that you could take money off people, and you're not really worried about what's happened to their family and the destruction it's causing, but you're going to line your pockets and make yourself set for life, of course you're going to do it. And that's what they do. They didn't look at the carnage it's causing, but football's not the same as what it was before.
And on that note, good luck to St Johnstone in the Betfred League Cup final.
That's what I was going to say. Come on, the boys. I'm going to get my scarf out. And I'm going to get the beer, and we're going to sit and watch a final, and I'm buzzing. I really, really hope, especially after yesterday. I think if they got beat yesterday or hadn't taken on for the game, I think it would have been difficult, because kind of going 3 games psychologically. But I mean, yesterday was a pumping. Yesterday could have been 3 gone on 5 the way the game was going, but they missed the penalty, obviously, poor penalty, and then they got a part score. They didn't even deserve to get a goal in the game. So I really fancy the boys to win, and it would just be nice. It would be amazing for Callum as well, but it probably, because you get what I get to see yesterday and what's in it, but it'd be amazing for you lot as well, to be fair, because I know what it's like to support a club, and I know I've lost all that now. A wee bit of that yesterday, and even that buzz, even St Johnstone scored yesterday, I was at my seat. I didn't know that there was a goal or no, because Stephen, you didn't see, that's what I explained to him after as well. You didn't see anybody jumping up or doing that, whatever. Normally in goals as well, when a ball goes in the corner of the net, it maybe swirls round the net and you can see it's in.
I thought it went wide.
Never knew it was in.
Yeah,
so you never knew. It was a lovely free kick. The boy Tans had done really well, to be fair. Good player. Really impressed with him, actually. Impressed with the boy who played up front. And Rooney played well, and the 2 central defenders were different class. They they're a big, big side. Callum's obviously learned a lot about his defeats before to them. They play this kind of long ball, they miss out, there's no football involved with her. And yesterday they were brilliant. The boys were absolutely brilliant. I so hope they win for St Johnstone as a club, but for all the amazing people that I got to meet through my time there. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful family club. And I so hope for you boys that they win. And I will be doing there, and I will be cheering them on and supporting them on the day.
Brilliant. Lovely to hear that. Kev, it's been an absolute honour to have you on. I hope it's kind of opened up your story to a whole new lot of listeners who will know the name Kevin Twaddle, but maybe not know the backstory. I mean, I hope that gives a lot of people food for thought regarding your message. I really appreciate having you on. Dan will say likewise.
Kev, yeah, that was amazing, mate. Thank you so much for coming on. I've really enjoyed chatting to you. It's been an absolute pleasure, an absolute privilege, mate. So thank you so much.
It's even more so for me. It's very humbling to be asked, by the way, and I mean that deep down. It's you never ever forget about your football career and kind of the love and warmth I've been showed in the last couple of days, and especially, as I said, for you boys as well. I'll always be in touch as well, keep in touch. And I've got so much love for St Johnstone, the club, the people at it, and the love and warmth that I've been shown in my time as well. For older people that were kind of younger, obviously, when I was playing as well, and to get the opportunities to speak tonight, just very grateful. So thank you very much.
No problem at all, Kev. Have a good evening. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers. Thank you.
See you, mate.
Cheers. Thanks, Dan.
Well, how was that, Dan?
It was quite something. I don't mind telling you. I found it very emotional. What a lovely man. What an absolutely special guy. I'm so grateful to him for coming on and chatting to us, but for being so open and being so honest, and just really for being himself there. Yeah,
he's a special guy. I knew it'd be quite the chat with him. And as we said, his book, Kevin Twaddle, Life on the Line, is available to buy online. Have a look for it. Well worth the read. And
I just hope everyone listening took something or took as much from it as we did, because that was quite something. And what a special guy. Thank you so much to Kev. So we'll have to move on, and move on we will to one of our regular features. Sam?
Yep, it's George Boyle in the Royal. Have you ever seen any St Johnstone player out with a football environment? Have you ever seen Peter Enkelman in Asda, for example, or Paul Sturrock in an Ibiza nightclub? We'd love to hear where you've seen a St Johnstone player out and about. Go to Dogger Saints on Twitter or Instagram and let us know. I'll start with this one, Dan. I remember I was working in Cyprus at the time with RAF, and I was sat next to John O'Neill, 90s legend, on the plane. All he had to do was talk about nice things about St Johnstone, which were even weirder. I seen Kevin McGowan, again, mid-90s, in my bathroom.
What, working in there? Or...
Yeah, he's a Tyler now, but he was in my bathroom. How about you? Have you ever seen any random Saints players out and about?
Yeah. I mean, there's a one-off incident. This isn't sort of that out of context or whatever. But remember a lad, Matty Willock, came on loan from Man United a couple of years ago?
Yeah,
midfielder. And for a start, I was giving it all. It would be fantastic. He's really well thought of at United. I've only ever heard people say great things about him. He was awful, Saints. He was really... It just didn't work. But anyway, so I kept just seeing him on St John Street. I must have had a flat on there or something, and he must have really liked fresh air. But at that stage, I used to walk down St John Street a lot, mainly because it was between my office and the holy trinity of Murray's, Greggs and Beggs. Direct route. And it was also, just for me, I used to go down there a lot. And it was, I think, because he used to go to a quiz at the venue and when he used to live in town. And honestly, every time I walked down that street for about 4 months, Matty Willock was out there, just walking. I know his full Saints trackies and all that. And it got to the stage where we were generally like, not chatting to each other, but the knowing look there.
Yeah, all right, again. Hello again. Maybe he's just daft on McEwen's. They shop, not the drink.
Yes.
So if you've ever seen Keith Watson in Skegness or Cleveland Taylor in a Taylor's, let us know. A returning feature now, this section, Doggers on Tour, takes us round the world of international St Johnstone football players. Last week we were in Estonia for Madis Vaiman, and this week I believe we're off to the Emerald Isle, Dan.
Yes, we are. Now, it probably says a lot about what lockdown's done to my imagination, that when I was asked to pick an international Saints player, I could think of Ireland. But we're going to go with another recent one. And it was a lad who played Saints actually up until last summer, technically. And that is David McMillan.
Ah, yes.
And David McMillan, I'm sure everyone listening remembers, centre forward, came from Dundalk, was sort of around the place for a little bit and then became a bit of a lone ranger before eventually going back to Dundalk. So the main reason I wanted to sort of talk about David McMillan is because I still just can't work him out. I can't work out, A, whether he was good or not very good, whether he was hard done by or Tommy Wright was right to sort of freeze him out. And actually just what he did as a centre forward. Well, he certainly wasn't big, but was he a hold the ball up sort of Chris Kane type, or was he an out-and-out goal scorer? I do not know.
I'm not entirely sure what he was. He remember scored a decent header against Motherwell. I think that was when Steve McLean's last game and we won 5-1 at Fir Park. But yeah, his career at St Johnstone kind of started off pretty roughly, I think, for the guy.
Yeah, so about 20 minutes into his debut, actually, another point I'm going to make here about David McMillan is I'm convinced he writes his own Wikipedia because he's got exactly 21 minutes into his debut. And I don't think anyone else in the world would care about that sort of extra detail. But anyway, he's come on against Partick and he looked pretty bright. And again, sort of the same as Maddis last week, you look at the context, Saints were little bit struggling for centre-forward options or goal-scoring options. Steve McLean was still there. You're looking at sort of guys like Graham Cummins and there was one or two others. Chris Kane had just come back off loan. Yeah, so it was sort of quite exciting to have this guy that no one really knew anything about because he's come over from... I'm certainly no expert on the Irish League.
I'll add that to Estonia.
Oh, I will add that to Estonia, yeah. I feel a bit more of an expert after last week on Estonia. Yeah, so Miller's come over, and for those 21 minutes of his debut against Partick, he looked bright, he was putting himself about, and then whack. Thomas Cherney comes flying out. He stayed on the pitch, and I don't know how. But the irony of all ironies out of that was McMillan went off, not because he was out of it, or anything like that. But in the process of getting clattered, he pulled a hamstring. I don't know how it's physically possible. And it sort of all adds into this mystery wrapped in an enigma that was David McMillan. I don't know how he did it, but he did. And so then he disappeared for 3 months. The other thing about that churning. So he came back. I remember him scoring, he scored the goal at Motherwell. Before that, I think it must have been his first goal. He scored a really important penalty at Hamilton, a 2-1 win.
That's right, yeah.
I remember basically kept us up, or kept us out of any potential shenanigans in the latter part of the last few games of the season. So you sort of looked at him, because he'd just come back. He'd been missing for 3 months. He's come back, and you thought, well, maybe next season, he's got 2 in 4. Maybe next season he'll kick on. And it was just a total freeze out from then, really. Got a couple at the start of that season and then fell out of contention. It was a bit of a shame because he did look like he had a little bit of something about him.
It was definitely worth the gamble.
Don't think he cost a lot. His wages he wouldn't have exactly been a top earner. And then, much like Cotton Eye Joe, he went back to where he came from. And he's gone back to Dundalk. Just this summer, as I say, he spent the entirety of last season on loan at Falkirk.
But he's gone back a Europa League hero.
He's now a Europa League hero. 3 goals in Europa League this season. And then further to this whole mystery of David McMillan, his league record this season, 0 goals in 11 games. His cup record, 8 goals in 5.
Wow.
I cannot work him out. And I don't think I ever will. And I think that's and I quite like it that way.
Part of the charm.
It's part of the charm. But yeah, so see, he's only 32. I doubt we'll ever see him back in sort of Scottish football again. I doubt we'll ever see him outside of Irish football.
But it's always nice. We'll keep a wee eye on him to see if he updates his Wikipedia page anytime soon.
That's it. I mean, I'm now doubting that 8 in 5. Why would he give himself 0 in 11 in the league unless he knows of his own sort of contradiction?
He is not a league player. He's all about the big cup matches.
He's all about the big games. And maybe we never saw enough of that with him.
I don't think so. I don't think we've seen enough. But David McMillan, good goal scoring record for Dundalk 2 times over. But yeah, he'll always be a mystery. So that was our trip to Ireland. Maybe we'll feature somewhere where we won't be able to go, somewhere on a propeller plane and venture a wee bit further away.
The Stena line from Stranraer.
That's it. So if you'd like any specific player featured on the Doggers on Tour, let us know at Dogger Saints on Twitter and Instagram. Could be anybody from Peter Fear, Benito Campbell, you name them, we'll cover them. So Saint stories. Last week I told you all about the time I was on the team bus coming back from the away trip from Brecon, which I never went to. Dan, you promised us that you'd have a tale.
Oh, gather around, friends. It's the second part of Danny Williams' story time.
Take a seat.
Right. So this was my first proper away trip with Saints, and we're going up to Dingwall. So as has been sort of well mentioned, I'm not, from Perth originally. I was really sort of enjoying going back to the odd game and watching Saints. The other thing about moving when you're 26 to a new city where you don't know anyone, you don't make any friends. But I was friendly with a lad from work, a big mate of ours, Adam, better give him a shout out. It's his birthday this week. So
happy 40th, Adam, for this week.
So he's really kindly invited me along. Now, the other thing you may have sort of gathered is I'm a bit odd. I do odd things. I kept thinking to myself, right, just don't be a complete and utter fucking oddball on this trip and you'll be fine. So I knew Adam, I knew another lad on trip, but I'm meeting everyone else. You know, we're there before the game, so I was doing quite well. There were a few cans on the train up. Stopped at this pub in Inverness. Really good pub, can't remember what it's called. Anyway.
Is that the one with like the live band in it? It's always like Party Central. Is it that one?
Oh, we ended up there after.
Yeah, you always do.
And I'm thinking to myself, I'm doing really well. I'm doing all right. I'm actually coming across as normal. And you know what, we're having a great laugh and all that. And then we're leaving Inverness, getting taxis up. Literally, as soon as that taxi's pulled away, oh my God, I need a pee. I'm absolutely busting in. And I sort of said to one of the lads, I'm like, I could go back to sea for swimming and all that. Oh, don't worry, we're only 20 minutes up the road. Oh my God, that was the longest 20 minutes I've ever had in my life. And I couldn't make it. I said to the taxi driver, I'm like, mate, you're going to have to pull over here. There was like a parking bay by the side of the A road. I'm like, mate, you're going to have to pull over here. I'm like, sorry, I'm not going to be able to hold it. Got out, I'm like, and apologised to the lads. I'm like, sorry lads, I don't mean to hold you up. Like, there was sort of a steep banking. I've looked at it and thought, right, well, I better not be by the side of the road in case, you know, the buzz come down. Like, I could be doing without that. It's pretty skint at the time. So there's like this little banking. And I had on my feet a very sort of fashionable but wholly impractical pair of leather sole boots.
They are not practical for climbing any kind of bank.
They're not practical. Leather sole Hudsons. And I'm like going up this sort of hill. I'm making out like it was Everest. Got up, and anyway, you can see, you probably all tell where this is going. I just felt my right foot go. And my exact words were, oh, fuck. It's right foot goes, left foot goes. I've gone fetal, rolling down.
Yes.
Head over heels. And then I've seen like this gorse bush just in my path. I'm like, oh my God. I somehow managed to like parkour over that. And then I've got to the bottom. I'm just lying in a heap at the side of the A road. And I'm like, all I could think of, I didn't think that I'd just fallen down a hill or the entirety, it was busy and all, and folk might have seen me. All I could think of, oh shit, I'm going to keep the lads waiting for longer now. I want to delay this even longer. So I've got back up, I sprinted up the hill, nearly fell again, got up, done the business, gone back down. And I thought, all I could was like, well, maybe they've not seen that. Like the lads in the taxi, I've got back in. Everyone, the taxi driver was the most miserable bastard on the planet. He was howling. All the lads were, and all I could say was, did you all see that then?
Oh,
we're
wow.
like, yes, we did.
Was it filmed?
No.
Oh, God.
Adam couldn't get his phone out quick enough. He says it's one of his life's great regrets. So we've got up to the Mallard, and who's been at Dingwall will know about the Mallard. One of the great clubs of Scottish football. So I stood in there. I'm picking like thorns and shit out of my coat. And one of the lads comes up and is like, where have you been? It's a long story. I thought I was coming across as perfectly normal and whatnot. I fell down a hill trying to have a pee.
In broad daylight, before the football.
In broad daylight, at the side of a busy A road.
You can expect that kind of behaviour after a game, but certainly not pre-match.
I don't know, I was pretty canned.
Drink responsibly, everybody. Good story. I'm going to phone the boys and get more info on that next week, and if anybody's got any questions regarding that, I'll make sure to get more info. So this Sunday sees the current title holder Celtic rock up to McDermott Park. What are you thinking, Dan?
Well, they're not very good, are they? So it might be a little bit of a chance. Maybe it's a chance to get at them. We played very, very well at Parkhead in December. Came away with a draw, which could easily have been 3 points. So I said last week it was a free hit against Rangers. I think we can be a little bit more cute against Celtic. I think we can play it tactically and still don't think it's a case of hoping for something out of the blue to happen against Celtic. I do think we can sort of coin with a game plan against them.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we do get someone out that game now against Celtic. But most important thing of that is I hope they get one small changing room to deal with after that nonsense from Lennon.
I'll just speak to sort of the manager over at B&Q. So you can stick a porter cabin in the car park, put them in there as a changing room, and then make them walk across Crieff Road.
I can't see that being a loser, to be fair. Or we could stick them in the Saint shop. That's a small, tiny little hut. Get all 30 members of staff in there. That's been redundant at the moment, so get them in there.
I know we covered it last week with Kieran, but I've been in those changing rooms, the Astro changing rooms at McDermott. I mean, they're not small.
No, they're massive.
One thing not. So in the Kingdom Hall of wild Lennon excuses, I think that takes somewhere close to pride of place.
It's got to be up there. Another excuse came out the Livi game. I was listening to the commentary just while I remember. We were described as dogged by the Livi commentator, which there's another one to add to the list. No, not that we were a better team. We were just dogged and we were street smart and stuff like that again. Just more nonsense.
Yeah. Absolutely nonsense. I mean, at the end of the day, Livi have got a player with his nickname on the back of his shirt, so that doesn't count. J. Emmanuel Thomas having Jet on the back of his shirt.
Absolutely outrageous.
Outrageous, baby. But yeah, back to the Celtic game. I genuinely think that it's a chance to take something at least from them. If we don't, again, they're still second in the league. It's still not a game that's going to decide the fortunes of this season.
Have they turned a corner?
Maybe just at the right time. I still don't think they're anywhere near as good as they were last season even.
No.
So they should, I'm saying all this, they should beat us. They'll be huge favourites for the game. I just don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility that Saints can give them a proper game.
Well, I think set pieces might help with Shane. Get Big Rooney on top of Shane Duffy, then you'd think you've maybe got a chance.
That's another thing. You've always got a chance with sort of Celtic's frailties at the back.
Yeah, they're prone to a clanger, certainly more so this last couple of months. But we'll see what happens. We'll be back next Sunday night after the game to dissect all that. And
we can see how wrong I was about everything. about Celtic not being very good, about the B&Q Porter cabin. And Shane Duffy will probably have a blinder now. So
yeah, he'll score a hat-trick. Saints lose 3-0. Cheers, Dan.
I do hope it's not the same approach as the Rangers game, though. Even though I thought that was nothing really wrong with it, and I thought it was probably necessary. Otherwise, if we'd opened up, if we'd say we'd gone like 4-3-3 against Rangers or something, they got torn one from leg. But I do think there's an opportunity against Celtic to play just a bit more normally, as we normally would.
Yeah, have a good chance to have a wee go
at them.
Brilliant. Well, we'll see how your predictions are next week, Dan. Well, thanks for listening. That's the end of episode 2 of the Dogger Saints podcast. Dan, how do you think we got on this week?
Again, very, very enjoyable, Sam. I really enjoyed myself again.
I think we'll struggle to get a more interesting and honest guest on our podcast. So we're delighted to have Kevin on and really appreciate his time. But we hope you enjoyed that. If you've got any feedback for us, go to @DoggerSaints on Instagram or Twitter. You can listen on Spotify. You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We'll put the full list of where you can listen, and hopefully by the time this is out, we'll be on YouTube as well. We'd also like to say a big thank you to you, the listener. If it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be doing this. And also to producer Lynn for putting this together.
No, just thank you to everyone for listening. And once again, really appreciate it. And if you have any feedback, we'd really appreciate that as well. But until next time, you take care of yourselves out there.
Bye-bye.